So I've had another 4:30 a.m. start, and I can't get back to sleep because um, there is some issues with regards to the engineers wanting to draw up a new agreement for the last 10% of the work. So I've paid them 90% of the money, and the remaining 10% needs to be paid on completion. And look, maybe the house is 75% done. The main thing left to do, well, there's two things. One is the plumbing and the drainage in the backyard, which is a big issue for me and something that I've been asking them to do for months. And it actually seems to be the thing that's caused this bone of contention. And I can show you, but there's a pipe basically that brings storm water through from other properties that are higher up in the village than me. And I've always said that I wanted it to be connected down into the sewer system with my stormwater, like my drainage, because the backyard is higher than the house, and so it's important to get good drainage in the back, especially because, in Corfu we get some pretty heavy storms, right? Rainstorms come in, you get a lot of water in a quick period of time, and so I wanted channel drains along the back of the house. I wanted the sort of, water drain concrete stuff to all be sloped away from the house. And on Saturday, they just lumped down a whole bunch of concrete in the back, sloped it into what I'm going to call it would be a sump drain. Not what I asked for at all. And in fact, I'd sent images to the engineer to show him what I did want in terms of a channel drain. And asked him on Saturday, if he could, because they'd done part of the cement. And I said, I'm not sure that this is right. And it's, there was nothing, like, there was no leveling to it. There was, let's just throw down a few bits of Rio and, throw some concrete at it, which is often what happens here. And I'm like, this actually doesn't look right to me. And where's the channel drain going to go? And, whenever I question them on things like this, I always get the whole, they know what they're doing, Kerry. They've been doing building stuff for 30 years. Like, they're offended by the fact that you ask questions. And I'm kind of like, when does it get to the point where I don't really care whether you're offended or not? It's my house, and you're actually doing things now that are going to cause me bigger, longer term problems. And at the same time, trying to tell me to do things like, so one of the engineers, the one who's being very unreasonable, is telling me that I can just cap it. I should just cap this stormwater thing that everybody else's, water comes in, and I'll just cap it and not run it through my backyard at all. Because they didn't dig it out and do the things that they were supposed to do, which I've been emailing them about for months, about my concerns about the fact that they didn't do any of the drainage work in the backyard before the house was kind of finished inside. And now they're saying, oh, we don't want to do that because now we have to traipse all of the refuse from digging up the stuff that I've asked them to do out through the house, and they don't want to do it. Because they didn't do it before when they should have. It's part of the reason why it was one of the first things in the contract. Phase 1 of the contract was to do everything in the backyard so that they could get through the house. I've had to make chamomile tea. And just talking about it's making me anxious, so my mouth goes dry. But I'm in a real bind because I'm about to go to America for a wedding, and, to be honest, have a bit of island fever after 6 months of feeling like I'm stuck here, not able to leave it because of these sorts of things. you turn around for a couple of hours and they've done something else. And I really just want to lock them out of the house for the next, few weeks while I'm away. Because it's just too stressful. It's really like, and because there was a penalty in the original contract that because if they didn't finish by the 31st of December that I could set a 10% penalty, and there's only 10% remaining on the house. They've only done about 75, maybe 80% of the work now, and I'm going to say the finishing is terrible, like really terrible. And I just wish people would turn around and say, oh, we're not really good at that, and maybe you need to get somebody else, or, maybe you need to do it yourself. The skirting boards, honestly, there's gaps like this in behind the skirting boards because they didn't screw them to the wall. They just glued them, basically. And because the walls aren't straight, they've just popping off in places. And so then they've just gone around and filled that with no more gaps. And it's just stressing me out, the fact that they won't, if they don't know how to do something, they don't actually just tell you that they don't know how to do something. They just go ahead and slapdash something together that they think is okay, and it's not. And it just wastes time and effort and energy and cost. So, I was then told that I had to urgently go and get more skirting board the other day, for example. And, so I go rushing into town, put everything else aside that I was doing, to get more skirting board. And only to be told later, oh, well, actually, I didn't need it. I probably only needed 1 or 2 more pieces, not the 5 pieces that I told you to get because I miscalculated. And, you can't return this stuff. It's not like Australia where, you don't need something or you can't return stuff like that. So it's a massive problem, this now, because after the big argument about the backyard, and I'm saying to them, we've had this conversation so many times, and I've got it on video, for goodness sake. They're kind of like, yelling and screaming at me, and we don't care whether you've got it on video or not, we're not doing it. It's horrible. And now, my friend Richard came yesterday and we were looking at the front of the house because I'm actually really concerned about how they're going to finish the front of the house. I don't think that they're going to do it properly. I think they're going to just stick some mesh over the front of it and, put some top coat on it and paint it. And that's a real problem because a lot of the front of the house, like the original, it's not stone. There's some stone in it, but it's not stone. It's actually, it's just sort of been rendered feature work over the top of stonework, and it's blown, like, it's cracked and it's got water getting in behind it. And, Richard's done a lot of stonemasonry work, and he said there's the columns at the front of the house are actually made from bath stone, and they're, split where the gates go and everything else. And I just know from what they've done out the back that they're just going to throw a whole bunch of cement in it. And it's not going to last. It's just going to end up cracking again. And so at what point do I turn around and kind of go, okay, this isn't working, or this isn't what we agreed in the contract? Because they're already telling me, and they keep telling me that, costs have blown out and, they're not making any money out of this job, which is why they now want to redraw a new contract. I don't want to redraw a new contract. I was talking to one of the guys who does a lot of the building work in the village last night. And, they're saying to me it's only going to be a week or whatever for the front of the house. And everybody else is going, it's a couple of months' work. You've got to take off all of the old plaster stuff that is blown and getting water through it and whatever else, and redo it. But I don't think they're going to do that. They're just going to stick some, mesh over the top, gauzy stuff to hold it together, and do a slapdash job of it. And so I'm really stressed about what to do. And I don't want to be in America for a couple of weeks stressing my head about the fact that I don't know what they're doing. And I've asked about the electrician and the plumber in particular. And I've been asking for the plumber to come back. I've been saying for months that the plumbing is the thing that's stressing me out the most. That plumbing is the stuff that I just think isn't, it's only about 60% complete. And that's the bit that's probably causing me the most angst, because, the water treatment system has to come and be installed in the backyard. They got another guy in yesterday to talk about the stonework in the backyard, and now they're basically telling me that, oh, well, that's going to be extra. So now all of a sudden, all of these extras are coming out. And, the contract actually says that they're supposed to make 15% over and above. And so my brain goes, well, do I call an audit? The problem with this is that, it doesn't operate here like it does in other Western countries, where you would just kind of go, that's our contract, that was the agreement, get on and do it. Or we'll, there'd be some consumer rights or something. There's nothing like that here. No consumer rules. I told you about being screamed at for not paying I'd paid 75% of the money, and, the very unreasonable engineer was yelling and carrying on about the fact that I had to pay the rest of the money. And I was worried because I didn't even have the air conditioning unit in then. And I was getting to that point where I'm like, okay, the last 10%, like how much of the house could I finish myself if they walk off the job without another agreement or anything else? How much of the work is left, and how much, what's it going to cost? So I'm just really stressed because I kind of just want them to finish the electrical and the plumbing. And I'm not sure that I want them to do the front of the house now. I'm not sure that I trust them to do it. And that's a big problem. And that's why I'm awake at 4:30 in the morning. And, tomorrow I have to be awake at 4:30 because I've got to go and get on a plane. Today I don't need to be awake. And because of everything that was going on, I had trouble getting to sleep anyway. And I just don't know what to do now. And it gets very, very stressful because I don't trust them now, like everything that we were doing, everything seemed to be okay. But this constant, I've asked multiple times about the backyard. I've got it in writing in multiple emails, and I've constantly sent messages kind of going, I'm concerned that the backyard hasn't been done. And then they've just thrown a bunch of concrete at it. And literally cemented over the area that has to have the drainage put through the backyard. And I'm just so frustrated about not being able to get this message across. And I said I didn't want them to do anything else until I had a drawing. And then they went ahead and just threw a whole bunch of cement at it. And that's what I'm worried about the front of the house. They're just going to throw a bunch of cement at it. But I've now paid them so much money that, like, for me to stop it now or do anything differently now, I have to get somebody else in to finish it. it's going to cost me more than the 10% that's remaining on the contract. But I don't trust them to finish it properly. So I don't know what to do. Yeah, and it's really stressful because I don't know what to do. Anyway, so I thought I'd tell you, at least somebody's listening, even if nobody actually has any great words of wisdom on how to resolve this stalemate. Yeah, anyway. I'll try and drink my chamomile tea and read my book for a while and see if I can distract myself enough to get back to sleep.